Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for the annual meeting of the President's Council on Sports, Fitness, and Nutrition. My name is Rachel Fisher, and I am the designated federal officer for this council, and so it is my pleasure to officially call this meeting to order. I'd like to thank, first of all of our wonderful council members who are here in person. We also have a number of them joining us from Zoom. I also want to thank all of the awardees who are in attendance with us today and our members of the audience. So we have a very special welcome from one of our co-chairs who was not able to be here in person, but I would now like to turn it over to Jose Andres to welcome everyone today.
Hello, people of America. Hello, everybody. I'm in Mexico City, and that's why I cannot be with you in my beloved city of Washington, D.C., but I only want to say to all my fellow members of the President's Council on Sports, Fitness, and Nutrition, welcome. Here we are once again together. Really, thank you for all coming together for the annual meeting and for this very special One Lacrosse Gathering celebration. I cannot believe it has only been a year since the council members we were sworn in, because I believe we have accomplished so much in that little time. So I'm very proud chair of this group of members, and I do believe we all worked hard on this year, moving so many initiatives, right and left, north and south, across the country. So I do believe we create a historic partnership that brings together all of the major sports leagues. That's very huge. And also the players' associations in all across the country with this simple goal to create stronger, healthier communities, especially for the American children. And we are working with our partners to expand access to sports and physical activity and educate more Americans about the importance of good nutrition and how we can all live healthier lives. And we partnered with YouTube to create a content workshop for some of their top influencers to make sure our message of good nutrition is reaching young people and especially also their parents. We hosted this year several events and collaborated with our federal partners on many, many more. From the White House Challenge in February with Second Gentleman Doug Emhoff, was right there leading that challenge, to the One Lacrosse Gathering celebration that is happening right here this weekend. The council, I believe, has built activations that help get our message out and create a healthier country. To don't repeat myself. For the first time since 2019, we brought back the President's Council Annual Awards. And today I'm very excited, and I think all of us are, that we are honoring so many great people and organizations that have worked to create stronger, healthier communities. I do believe I remember meeting Dion Dawson at the White House last February and hearing his passion for his work. I was so excited to see the council select him as a winner for the Tackling Food Security in Chicago and helping our young people succeed. Dion, wow, is one of my heroes. It was also very inspiring to hear about the Saris Community Project, which started when Catherine decided to mentor 6 teenagers and teach them how to cook healthy meals for the families. Sometimes a small effort can become something so huge and so impactful. Or a fellow chef, a good friend, almost a brother, the great Michel Nichan, who has been an amazing advocate for food as medicine, bringing together good policy and good food to help people. 2 of my favorite things, as you know, and my beloved organization, DC Central Kitchen, who team up with the Washington Nationals and Nats Philanthropies to open a Healthy Corner store, Ardor Baseball Academy, to feed not only the next generation of superstars, but their families too. So I want to thank all of the council members for working hard to make sure we are meeting our mandate to help create a healthier America. And thanks to their work, to all your work, and the leadership of the President Biden and Vice President Harris, we have been able to accomplish so much. While I cannot thank all the 30 council members personally, I wanted, with your permission, just to thank a few, like Ben Jacobs, who has worked tirelessly to bring together our federal partners, tribal nations, lacrosse leagues, and youth organizations were together to have the One Lacrosse Gathering celebration tomorrow at the National Mall. Also, obviously, Dari Mosafarian, he's always fighting for good food and good nutrition. And Chef Jose Garces, also right there in the front lines, who both of them led the YouTube workshops and helped train creators on nutrition messaging. This is going to be impacting, I will say, millions of people. So thank you, Derek and Chef Garces, for your leadership on this. Ryan Howard, who is also on Zoom like me today, who helped us get the sports leagues partnerships off the ground and brought the sports leaders together for the White House Challenge. That was huge. Thank you, Ryan. And obviously the incredible Tina Flournoy, who has always been there to support the council in every way possible. From working with the sports leagues to bringing new partners into the mix to support our work. Tina, I know that answers the call every time. And so when Tina calls, you better answer that call too. Lastly, I wanted to thank all of the amazing staff at HHS who has been the backbone of our council and have been so dedicated for making sure that the ideas of council members and executed time and time again, that they keep happening, that they are not just ideas that just die in the pot of ideas, and for making sure that the council obviously has everything that we need to succeed. So, my friends, I look forward to seeing you soon, somewhere in Washington, D.C. or somewhere across America. And I hope you all enjoy a great weekend playing lacrosse on the National Mall.
Thank you, Jose, so much for joining us from Mexico City. We really, really appreciate it. It's wonderful to have you. Welcome, everyone, to this meeting. So now I would like to ask our Executive Director, Rehan Marani, to come up and provide his remarks.
Thank you, Rachel. It's always a pretty tough act to follow after Chef Andres, but I drew the short end of the stick this time around, I guess. I wanted to thank everyone for being here. It means a lot that all of you could be here with us today. The President's Council annual meeting obviously just happens once a year in person. Obviously, we meet with council members fairly regularly. On a week-to-week, month-to-month basis virtually, but it's good to kind of have everybody in the same room and have some folks attend virtually as well. So excited for this weekend and all that it holds. I was told that in past years, executive directors have typically done like a little bit of an annual recap on what the last year has really looked like. And as I was reflecting on it, I realized, today actually marks 11 months since I started at HHS as the executive director for the President's Council. And in that time, it does not feel like 11 months because this council has done so much and has hit the ground running from day one. The council members were sworn in June of last year, and since then there's been this energy and momentum to kind of try and move the needle as much as we can and ensuring that we're fulfilling that mandate of creating a healthier America. Last October, we started finalizing the MOUs with all of the sports leagues and players associations, and all of our league partners and player association partners were incredibly supportive off the bat, from the time that we, I think, originally talked to them to the time that, they were ready to sign on was like a very quick turnaround. So much so that in October of last year, right when I joined, the MLB during, the World Series last year had one of their play ball events in Dallas and began to kind of incorporate some of the nutrition elements there on nutrition education and bringing in team nutritionists to talk to kids during clinics and during like youth events. But we have like a little bit of a video that I wanted to show from that and a couple events, but I'll let them play that video first from October of last year.
What might be a healthy food you could eat later today? What do you think?
Grapes.
Grapes. What's another healthy food?
Salad.
Salad. What's another healthy one?
Orange.
Broccoli, orange. But my question is, why would you want to eat those healthy fruits and vegetables to get stronger? What do you think? To make you healthier. What else? How about it makes you smarter? Makes you taller. It makes you stronger. Show me a double bicep salute. And I think it actually makes you happier. Everybody say nutrition.
That was from Game 4 of the World Series last year. The council then went on in November to do an event at Governor Shapiro's mansion in Pennsylvania called Feast and Fitness with Chef Ben Jacobs and Mike Salmanov and Jose Garces and others to talk about, how people could cook food that was healthy for Thanksgiving and still, stay on the move and get physical activity in. Ben, I think, talked about, indigenous traditions around Thanksgiving, but we were able to do that as like another sort of marquee event in November. We also did another event in Minneapolis alongside our partners at the NBA called Kitchen Crossover, which was led by Allison O'Toole, who's a council member based out of Minneapolis. And we were able to kind of bring together cooking and nutrition. And so that's like the second video that I wanted to kind of show folks some highlights from.
We're here at North Commons Community Center in the heart of Minneapolis, Minnesota, hosting our first ever Kitchen Crossover event.
We've got amazing local chefs here from Minnesota. We've got the Timberwolves and the Lynx, coaches and players. Each team will consist of a chef and a coach or player.
Chefs are going to help guide our athletes and coaches through cooking a nutritious meal. And then they're going to switch. They're going to come out onto the court. The goal of Kitchen Crossover is to really raise awareness about the intersection of physical and mental fitness, but also the importance of access to nutritious food.
The real goal is to promote, obviously, physical fitness in all different varieties, but also maintaining good quality nutrition in your lifestyle. It's been a great event, a lot of fun. It was fun to work with Chef Ahmed, who gave me a lot of guidance.
I'm really glad to be a part of this and that the message is huge, and I hope that it really gets to spread nationwide.
That momentum has continued, with more events happening with different leagues and different sort of player associations and sports organizations across the country. In February, we officially launched the commitments that we have with the sports leagues and player associations as a part of the White House Challenge. Many of you may remember that in September of 2022, President Biden convened the White House Conference on Hunger, Nutrition, and Health, which is the first conference of its kind in over 50 years, and the first president to kind of do that. But at the same time, the president laid out a pretty ambitious goal, which was by 2030, wanting to eliminate hunger and all diet-related diseases. And since then, we've been working with the sports leagues and player associations to figure out how we can create healthier communities by expanding access to physical activity, by helping, reduce hunger, by tackling food insecurity, by thinking about like food as medicine, and so many other sort of components to this. In March, the USTA became the first national governing body to join the partnership, and I think Nadine went down with the second gentleman to like the Miami Open as a part of that launch. Dari and Chef Jose Garces also led a workshop for YouTube's top content creators that very same month to talk about how they could be more effective in messaging nutrition to kids and to parents. And since then, in May, we had Mental Health Awareness Month. We were able to do an event at the National Press Club, again with the second gentleman, the Assistant Secretary for Health, some of our league partners, and kind of talk about the linkage between physical activity and better mental health outcomes in youth, whether that's reduced rates of stress, depression, anxiety, better academic performance, better social cohesion and community connectivity. We know that physical activity can have many benefits, and we were able to highlight that at the Press Club. And then from June onwards, we've been kind of focused on figuring out how do we end strong, but really focused on this weekend, which is a marquee set of events for us, including what culminates tomorrow, as you heard co-chair Jose talk about, which is we have the One Lacrosse Gathering celebration tomorrow, where I think last I heard we have over 200 youth RSVP'd to come to that, and Ben and team have been working tirelessly over the last few months to kind of bring together a lot of partners, both our federal partners at the Department of the Interior, the National Park Service, as well as private partners and other sort of advocacy groups to come together and figure out how we can pull something off, and that both sort of helps us honor lacrosse as America's first game, and helps us expand access to physical activity, but also talks about, I think, native nutrition and food, and thinks about, that element of things. But that to say, it has been a very, very busy year. It has not felt like 11 months, but much more. But the broader, I think, point that I'm hoping to make is not that we've just done a lot, but that this is just the beginning. For a council that has been incredibly active and has been, I think, just incredibly engaged in trying to move the needle, this is just kind of the start, right? What if I were to tell you that all of these things were done even while we've been, I think, for the most part, under-resourced, right? If Governor Shapiro hadn't let us borrow the governor's mansion, we wouldn't have been able to do Feast and Fitness. We work with the NBA and the Timberwolves when it came to, the kitchen crossover event with Second Harvest, which is Allison O'Toole's organization. We were able to do the Press Club event with the Press Club, and have them sort of run the venue and the logistics and all of those pieces to it, right? But, for us, we want to be able to do more. Most frequently when I tell people that I work at the President's Council, they ask me, oh, the people with the PACER tests, the patches, the certificates? And I mean, show of hands, how many of you in elementary or middle school took the Presidential Youth Fitness Test? Pretty much everyone in the group? Yeah, I mean, a good chunk of folks. And, unfortunately, since the pandemic, we haven't been able to bring that program back. We want to be able to modernize it. We want to be able to, bring it to a technical platform. We want to make it accessible for school districts across the country to be able to implement it for free. And we want to get it in the hands of, the millions of school children that attend school every day. And we want them to be able to do that, right? I think for us, we've done so much in 11 months with so little, working with our partners and kind of, bringing things together, but we really do want to kind of take it to the next level and build on some of the great momentum that we have in working with our partners, right? And I think that, one thing I'll say is that I think this administration has obviously done a historic amount when it comes to health, right? I mean, came in the middle of a pandemic, did the vaccine rollout, right? Has focused on healthcare access by expanding Medicare, Medicaid, the Affordable Care Act, has focused on capping the cost of insulin at $35, has focused on negotiating drug prices, right? Making sure that healthcare is affordable for Americans, no matter, sort of what condition they might have. But it begs the question, we spend a lot of time and a lot of money, solving for problems that we could solve at the root by addressing the nutrition element, right? And I think that's part of why President Biden's the first president to kind of bring together the White House Conference in over 50 years. It's the reason why he set sort of this ambitious goal for us to be able to end hunger and diet-related diseases by 2030. It's the reason there's a national strategy on hunger, nutrition, and health, and expanding access to physical activity is a major pillar of that. But I think that the onus is on all of us collectively to come together and figure out how we can address this, because I'll tell you, when I tell people I work at the President's Council, a lot of them do talk about the PACER test, but a lot of them think that it's a lot of fun, and we're just here to kind of encourage people to eat healthy and get their exercise in, and that is what it is. But ultimately, like, it is far greater than that and far more serious than that, because ultimately, like, when you look at it, nutrition is a critical issue for us, right? It is the leading cause of death in the United States at this point in time. Less than 10% of Americans consume, enough fruits or vegetables, but 90% consume far too much sodium. In the last 2 decades, the number of Americans diagnosed with diabetes has more than doubled. And only 1 in 4 Americans are getting an adequate amount of physical activity daily, and the same amount aren't physically active at all. But I say that to say that, like, that's not just about people's health, that is an economic issue. Were we to actually improve access to sports participation, Healthy People 2030, which is an HHS initiative here, tells us that we would save $80 billion in costs over a 10-year period, right? We would regain that from an economic standpoint. That's $80 billion that we could be spending on better schools, better roads, so many other things, right? If we were able to kind of cause that. Nutrition is a national security issue. Our friends from the armed services are here, and they will tell you that half the students who graduate high school in this country aren't eligible to serve or physically fit enough to serve in the armed forces. And like, recruitment is an issue, right? It affects our force readiness ultimately at the end of the day. It is a climate change issue around consumption. It is, a health issue and how it affects productivity and how it affects the economy and almost every facet of how we see this, right? But we need to be able to meet that moment and meet the challenge where it is for where we are today, and help sort of invest in kind of that element of things, right? And I think that we've started to do that, and I think this council is taking a lot of steps to kind of be able to galvanize everyone together to be able to do those things, but I think that's where all of our partners and sort of everyone else comes into the equation. I will say this, many of you might know that the President's Council obviously gets limited funding from Congress, as does everybody, of course, but the President's Council relies on the support of a congressionally chartered nonprofit that was created in 2008 called the National Fitness Foundation, which is the sort of nonprofit arm of the President's Council and helps support all of the work that we do. Yes, they deserve a major round of applause. But, even though they are congressionally chartered, they do not receive any congressional funding year over year, right? And, right now, I think Hannah's here. Hannah, if you want to raise your hand. Hannah is our AmeriCorps Vista Fellow and currently one of I think maybe 2 staffers at the National Fitness Foundation currently, and does everything, whether that is finance, HR, operations, programming, social media, like event management, you name it, like Hannah's doing it at this point in time. I think our board chair and vice chair are here, Judy and Mike, if you want to raise your hands. But Judy and Mike are, on the NFF's board and play a very hands-on role in the day-to-day management. It's not just, sort of like a quarterly meeting. Like, they meet, if not once a week, sometimes more than that, to figure out, what are the things that they could be doing and help us be innovative, right? And I'm sure many of you that were at the lunch before this with, like, the award winners were wondering, like, we're at President's Council, like, they're serving potbelly sandwiches and paper plates, but, like, we are very frugal when it comes to, spending money in the right places, because we know where the impact can be made. Look, our legal team says that I'm not allowed to, ask people for money or anything, but that would be an interesting concept nonetheless. But I will say that, I think support in all forms in mobilizing people and in raising that awareness helps. Right now, a lot of the events that we've done have helped raise awareness, but we want to be able to actually start meeting people where they are, meeting kids where they are, and addressing this issue heads on, so we can actually address things like diabetes, and other diet-related diseases, other issues, so that we can ensure that from an economic standpoint, a national security standpoint, a climate standpoint, and so many others, we're actually meeting the moment and creating a healthier country that can, operate in all of those places without having to worry about nutrition. I hope that, I wanted to kind of lay this out to say that, like, look, I think this is the beginning and there's a long way to go for us to be able to revitalize the youth fitness program or so many other things that we want to be able to do. I'm very glad that you're here to be a part of it and to hear from us about it and to work with us on it and to kind of, give us your feedback and tell us what you think we could be doing. We're really excited about this weekend. We're really excited to kind of honor a lot of folks in this room, a lot of award winners who have spent their careers, who have spent their lives in pursuit of that very goal, same as us. It is always great to be in that room. To be in a room with your colleagues in sort of that fight. And so I can't tell you how much I appreciate it that all of you have made the time and the effort to be here in person and travel. And I look forward to kind of talking to all of you. I would be remiss if I didn't end on just a couple of quick thank yous that I wanted to give to folks. There is obviously a team of very committed staff here at HHS that works on the President's Council. While I am technically the only full-time staffer for the President's Council, there are several others who are part of, the Office of Disease Prevention and Health Promotion who work on the President's Council day to day, and it is a majority of their portfolio. They have other portfolios, but this obviously consumes majority of their time. Wanted to thank Rachel Fisher, who's our designated federal officer and puts in countless amount of time doing this. Allison Vox-Bierke, who is the event master that has helped put together this weekend's events and I think has been just burning the midnight oil for several weeks now on it. I wanted to thank our comms team, Jen Bishop, Joe Ellen, Teddy, and Joey. I think they're around. They're also running around doing things. I see a few of them. Many of them have been around for years and years. Many of them have been around for years and years and have so much institutional knowledge to share and have, a great way in thinking about how we can better kind of get the message out there to folks. I also wanted to thank other staff that have been very supportive or have helped us, with partnerships or help us think about how to be strategic and how we approach different things, like Katrina Piercy, who's at the back, who leads a lot of our work on the physical activity space. And several others who are around and some that are here, some that are not here today, like Mallory and others, and everyone who's kind of here to help us out today. But I think it has been a collective effort of this crew to kind of try and do everything we can to be innovative and resourceful to make these events happen, and hopefully we're able to do more with all of your support and help over the next term. And look, I can't say much about November, but I think nutrition is a pretty nonpartisan issue, right? So I hope that the next president, whoever she or he may be, will prioritize nutrition to the same I think gravity that this administration has put to it, and kind of the way that it's been elevated. But I did want to say thanks to those folks, and then a couple of members, Ben, obviously, for just hustling, and finding the funding and finding the resources, and I mean just being very perseverant in making this happen on the National Mall this weekend. And, time and time again, problems have come up, and Ben has, been there to consistently chase them down and figure out how we can solve problems, right? I've got a t-shirt guy, I've got a, photographer who can come take photos, I've got a guy who could give us water bottles, and just consistently working with us. Wanted to thank, obviously, Chef Jose Andres and Elena Deladon, who are the council co-chairs, who have been amazing to work with, amazing partners strategically. I've always kind of lent a lot of, their vision and guidance, a lot of their network. I've always, taken the call to kind of figure out what we could be doing or offer support or encouragement as we've faced different issues. Dari and Chef Jose Garces for partnering with YouTube and doing some great work, which I think will hopefully continue next year onwards. And several other council members who have, done everything from taking interviews. I think Ryan did a radio interview with a ESPN affiliate last week. Chloe Kim did the Surgeon General's podcast around mental health. Countless folks, you'll see folks here, who are going to be moderating panels, who I think I didn't give that much notice to moderate the panels. And, they've chipped in every way possible. Every council member has constantly been available. And more often than not, they're the ones coming to me for updates constantly to ask, all right, how can we help? How can we do more? And it has been amazing to kind of see that spirit come together. The last person that I wanted to kind of thank personally is Tina Flournoy, who picks up the phone and calls me multiple times a week, who has time and time again gone to bat for the President's Council, made sure we've had a seat at the table. She's constantly advocated for us, has always gotten us the resources that we need to pull things off, thinks more strategically, more brilliantly than most people I know, and has found ways to get things done in a unique, innovative way almost every single time that we've needed it, if not every single time. And her mentorship and support has meant the world to me this year in more ways than I can really, say. And so wanted to thank Tina for everything that she's done for both me personally and for the council over the course of this last year. That is all I have. Thank you all, and I will stop, ranting on stage now. But I look forward to talking to all of you after and throughout this weekend. But thanks. I think with that, I wanted to transition it over to Nadine to go ahead and bring up, a couple of our partners from the sports leagues to kind of talk a little bit about some of the great work that they're doing, both as a part of the partnership and individually. And some of the things that they're working on to make sure that, we're able to, like I said, move the needle on getting more young people active in sports and physical activity. But Nadine, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Rayhan, for the introduction. Although I'm not sure what level of bar he was setting when he said that the council members who were asked to be moderators weren't told until short notice. So maybe that was to help us out as we moderate these panels. But we're going to have some great discussions this afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. It is really wonderful to see all of you that have come here in person and that are tuning in online for this annual meeting of the President's Council. I am truly honored to be moderating this exciting conversation about the President's Council's partnership with major sports leagues and players associations, and to highlight the activities of some of the sports leagues and players associations, specifically on this panel, the sports leagues that will have this conversation. As you've heard, this is really an historic partnership between the President's Council and the major sports leagues and players associations. Got the message? And an important step and commitment that we are executing through the National Strategy on Hunger, Nutrition, and Health, which is serving as one of the commitments of the Biden-Harris administration's White House challenge to end hunger and build healthy communities. So it's my pleasure to introduce our two panelists. First is Nicole Breen, who has been working in the youth basketball development at the National Basketball Association since 2015, where she leads youth basketball programming to positively impact young athletes, parents, and coaches. She previously freelanced in operations production for ESPN, MSG, and the Philadelphia 76ers, working events such as the U.S. Open and Wimbledon. Nicole earned a Bachelor of Arts in Communication from Villanova University in 2015. Our second panelist is Jonathan Nabavi. Serves as Vice President of Public Policy and Government Affairs at the National Football League, and in this capacity, he is responsible for advising on all aspects of the NFL's public policy and legislative agenda, and represents the league on a wide range of issues before Congress, the administration, and other federal and local government agencies. Prior to joining the NFL, he served in a variety of senior congressional staff and political roles. A graduate of Penn State University, Jonathan was an academic All-Big Ten member of the Penn State football team while earning a degree from the university's Schreyer Honors College. He received his Juris Doctor from the George Washington, we're in DC, got to make sure I get that right, George Washington School of Law. So let's dive into our conversation. I'm going to come join our panelists here at the table. Please join me in welcoming our panelists. All right, so I'm going to start with Jonathan. So fantastic to have you joining us today. The league's coming off a big night, right, with the regular season kicking off last night. We did a little bit of sports talk earlier, so we won't dive into that too much. But the NFL has really been a leader in promoting physical activity, especially through initiatives like Play 60 and your ongoing work with Gen Youth. Could you elaborate on why the NFL has placed such a strong emphasis on youth sports and how these programs are really helping to shape the next generations of athletes?
Absolutely. And let me just also say thank you so much for having us here, for the partnership, to Rayhan for his leadership. The NFL, and I know all the leagues, we're thrilled to engage here. Because it really does in many ways sync up with some of our longstanding values and commitments. At the league, we know only 1 in 4 kids is really getting the activity and exercise they need. As a father of 2 little kids, sometimes I just want them to be tired, but I also know that when they're getting exercise and being healthy, that it's going to be good for their emotional well-being. They're going to be better leaders. There are just so many positive impacts with that. So one thing, I think the league has recognized for this for a long time, and for the last 18 years has partnered with the American Heart Association on Play 60, right? Bringing the idea of having that kind of activity level for kids into schools. And so that's been a long-standing commitment. And then you mentioned, of course, Gen Youth. Gen Youth is one of a number of partners that are really strong in their communities and in this space that we've been privileged to donate tens of millions of dollars from the NFL Foundation over the last couple of years. And with Gen Youth, I think it's a really great success story. One thing we've deployed there is the NFL Flag in School program, right? So this is like a kit, a curriculum, guidance, support, everything from like the footballs and flags to so much more. And what we've seen sort of data-wise is that this has impacted 30,000 schools and 17 million kids. So we're just really, really thrilled about that because again, I think we're very much aligned here on what the mission needs to be. And the other thing that, we touch on flag football and, we're very excited about, obviously everything that's going on in that space, but it's so inclusive, right? And it's reaching students and kids and girls and people that hadn't been exposed to the sports before. And so something we've been doing is, along with our clubs, engaging with policymakers, at the state and local level to make sure that girls flag football is a sanctioned sport, right? And increase that youth athletic participation.
Excellent. I really appreciate you elevating in particular the inclusivity in that focus. That's certainly an important priority as well within our work in the council. Nicole, let's talk about your work in the NBA in youth basketball development. Basketball is such an accessible sport. What is the NBA doing to inspire young people to get active and involved in the game? And could you share some of the key initiatives that have been most successful in really promoting youth participation?
Yeah, absolutely, and definitely echo Jonathan's sentiments in terms of thank you for having me here, thank you for the partnership with our leagues and this council, and just to start off with kind of accessibility, we are lucky in the sense that basketball is accessible in terms of you don't need a lot to be able to play, and that's kind of helped contribute to our global reach and nature of the game, but that doesn't necessarily mean that every kid here has access to a quality program and that experience that wants them, that helps them keep playing and being interested in the sport. And when we think about inspiring kids to play, we really think about that accessibility and how can we ensure that our programs do provide that access and inclusivity and positive environment, and really thinking about removing the barriers that do unfortunately exist when it comes to youth sports participation, whether that's across socioeconomic, gender, racial lines. Like there are still barriers, and so that's just kind of a thread that we think about when we develop our programming. But from a league standpoint, we have a junior NBA, junior WNBA program, which is our global basketball platform, and through that we really ground ourselves in focusing on the fundamentals of the game and those core values. You talked about becoming good people, and that's a huge part of being an athlete as well, and so focusing on sportsmanship, teamwork, respect. That's a huge piece of every program that comes along with our junior MBA platform, and really thinking about that positive, inclusive fun. If kids aren't having fun, they're not going to want to continue playing. So how does that come to life in all our programs and the access that we provide. And so one kind of key initiative that we've recently launched that has been really successful from a participation standpoint is our Junior NBA, Junior WNBA Leagues program, kind of similar from an NFL flag standpoint in terms of providing all those things that a kid would need in order to have a positive experience, and what's that everyday basketball journey like for a kid. And so it's essentially a national network of recreational basketball leagues for kids ages 6 to 14. We partner with a lot of community-based organizations. We partner with schools in order to make sure we have that kind of elevated, best-in-class experience, but it's still accessible and affordable. And so part of that is we provide, high-quality jerseys and equipment that are at a low cost. We really focus on also the adults in the landscape, so the league operators, the coaches, the parents, the referees. How are we providing training and resources so that they're focusing on providing those kids with the positive experience, and they're getting that good development. So that all kind of goes into that leagues program. We also have a partnership with Shape America as part of it, where we scholarship kids in Title I schools to play for free to make sure, again, that they have that access. And so we just launched it only 2 years ago in 2022, and since have, I think, over 45,000 kids that have participated so far. And a lot of that comes through our partnerships with NBA and WNBA teams. So it was great to see kind of that kitchen crossover event highlighted. But then just taking a step back over the course of last season through our junior programs, both domestically and across the regions, we were able to reach 43 million youth in 173 countries. And that's really through our focus on that kind of long-term player development, both on and off the court. And again, the adults that actually help facilitate that development.
Well, you raised some important points too about, especially for youth who just may not have access and opportunity. You pointed out, for example, reaching youth of color, youth who come from low-income households and communities. How do you weave that into that type of programming to assure that you're reaching youth who may not just have access and opportunity to be able to participate in those programs?
Yeah, so some of it is really identifying the right partners. So we talked about different community-based organizations, and with our teams, making sure that we are including those folks in the conversation, providing that scholarship and sponsorship opportunity, so that if, even though we feel that the program is accessible and affordable, that's not always the case. And so making sure we have programs in place where we are providing that scholarship and benefits, so that even if it's a community that can't afford it, they're still being included in the conversation.
Terrific. Jonathan, let's go back to you. In the last 6 months, as we've collaborated with all the leagues and players associations, it's become evident that mental health is a top priority for pretty much every organization in the partnership roundtable. The council has focused on this as well. How is the NFL working to reduce stigma around mental health, both for young people and current players? And are there specific programs or player-led initiatives that you're seeing are actually making a difference?
Yeah, I'm so thankful and glad that the council is focused in this area. It wasn't fairly recently. I saw an interview with a former NFL lineman. We call our former players legends. They're all legends for us. And he played 15 years in the National Football League, and he was talking about how it's a different world now. There just weren't these conversations back in the day, but that he'd really seen that change when it comes to aspects about opening up about mental health issues. And that's not just one player. That's really across the board. I was, one of my former college teammates, Michael Robinson, who folks might see on NBC now and was on NFL Network. We weren't having those conversations in the locker room 20 years ago. And my dad's a psychiatrist, right? So I come from a family where you would think maybe you embrace these things in these conversations, but it really wasn't the case. And so it's totally different now. And so guys like Michael, Dak Prescott, people who have experienced loss or difficulty in this space personally have really become leaders. They've engaged in a lot of ways with things like It Takes All of Us, programming that we have on our owned and operated social media and different media. The interesting thing is when we do this, it leads to like billions of impressions, right? Because people are interested in this content. So, look, I think it's one, having the conversation, opening up, showing people, modeling that, it's okay to have these conversations. So proud of our players for doing that. And then also making sure that people know about the resources and seeing that come through.
Excellent. Nicole, you referenced already the junior WNBA, but wanted to come back to you because the WNBA is having a record season. And what role are you seeing the junior WNBA having as it's helping to grow the women's game globally?
Yeah, it's great. I've already talked to a few people today just about the excitement around the WNBA and the historic season we're having. I feel like every day there's record and viewership attendance being broken, and just the conversation, the amount of conversation and spotlight that's been on the women's game is amazing. And of course, from a league perspective, we've been focused on specifically girls basketball participation for a while now, and so to be able to seize the momentum that's happening and kind of be primed to take advantage of that and continue that support for girls is really huge. And so our junior WNBA program is focused specifically on attracting girls to the game that maybe wouldn't necessarily be interested in basketball, but then also retaining and developing them through the game. And what we realized a few years ago is that we need to be really specific about how we work with girls in sports. We don't want to just be copying what we do on the boys or NBA side. We want to tailor programming that meets girls where they are and talks about their specific experience. So as part of that, last October, in celebration of International Day of the Girl, we launched a brand new curriculum that was really culturally responsive and kind of healing centered, going back to that mental health element of when it comes to girls basketball, weaving in those social emotional learning topics such as body image, self-confidence, goal setting. We do a lot of visualization and vision board activities with our girls programming. That's all really central to how a girl shows up in sport and how they want to potentially continue playing sport. And so we have really leaned into developing that type of programming and resources to, again, specifically cater to girls. We actually talked to girls as we were developing the curriculum, so it was kind of created for and by them, which is really cool. And so part of that too is from a coach standpoint. I keep talking about both youth and adults. We need to see more women coaches and leaders in the girls space specifically, and so we try to do a lot of training for both men and women that coach girls. We have a training called Belonging in Basketball, which again goes back to that concept of how can you cultivate that sense of belonging for a girl so that she wants to participate. So we do a lot of training in that aspect and really want to provide coaches with the tools to be able to successfully support girls. And then just we're very lucky to have a women's professional basketball league, and so we have all these amazing role models as players and front office staff, and so talking to girls and making sure that they see these women, know who they are both on and off the court, understand the business of sports and the types of jobs you can have even if you aren't a professional player. All of that is really important to just the visibility of the game and growing the game as well.
Thank you. I just really appreciate how both of you talk about this aspect of the life skills development, addressing mental health with really intentionality. There's so many, you have the life skills development through sports participation, but you can address so many areas that are so critical to really thinking about health and well-being, and then lifelong skills really for youth as well as adults. So really appreciate that focus and hearing that coming from the leagues themselves. So this summer has been really exciting because of the Olympics, and we're coming into the final days of the Paralympics. We actually have two of our council members who are in Paris right now, including Melissa Stockwell, who just finished in the top 5 of the women's para-triathlon. So let's give Melissa a round of applause, right? I'm sure we'd all love to be in Paris with her right now. So looking ahead to 2028, the Olympics in Los Angeles, where flag football is going to be making its debut. Jonathan, you talked about flag football earlier. How is the NFL preparing for this moment, and what is the league doing to engage youth, build excitement around it as we prepare for the games in LA 28?
Yeah, we couldn't be more excited. It's interesting. Like, here's a statistic that I kind of wasn't aware of, just sort of the depth of engagement around flag. It's played by 20 million people in more than 100 countries and 6 continents. And, it's short, fast, fun, and gender equal, right? So going back to this point, one of the fastest growing segments we see in sort of the popularity of flag football is with women and girls. And then, at the same time, the league is growing internationally, right? So I hope you all tune in to see us play our first game in South America tonight in Sao Paulo when the Packers and Eagles square off. But it's been several years now. I think it's 2023 when IFAF, the International Federation of American Football, and the NFL really got behind this effort. And it goes hand in hand with the excitement we have about the game growing here domestically. And I think sort of some of the things that are really interesting too is that we have Pro Bowl now. Our All-Star game is featuring flag football. So you have the best players in the world at this, showcasing those skills. In Canton, Ohio, at the Hall of Fame festivities, just I guess 28 days ago, we brought 2,800 of the best players in the world there who competed in a tournament. And then at the end of August, there were hundreds of folks who got together for like the biggest flag football tournament we've seen. It was actually in Finland. So we're thrilled by this growth. We think that it brings the game to so many more people. Certainly we'll build a new generation of fans, but tremendous benefit to the health and wellness of our kids.
It's exciting. I know we're all looking with anticipation to LA 28, which is great. We're going to do one more question for the both of you. The President's Council partnerships with sports leagues and players associations, as we've been talking about, focusing on physical activity, but also nutrition. And as we reflect on the White House Conference on Hunger, Nutrition, and Health, where, as you heard earlier, President Biden has set that goal to eradicate hunger and diet-related diseases by 2030. Be interested in hearing a little more about your work in this space. And so, Nicole, starting with you, can you tell us about how the NBA is really contributing to this effort? What initiatives is the league leading to address food insecurity, an important area, and how this aligns with this national mission around the national strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. And you clearly, based on all the conversations we've had, you can't separate good nutrition and physical activity and youth sports. And so that's just a key part of our collective social impact work in general. And obviously, again, the kitchen crossover, we're seeing our teams activate and support those efforts in their local communities. And so from a national standpoint, we are working with different partners. We have partnerships with Share Our Strength, No Kid Hungry, and Feeding America, and really making sure they have a lot of scale and impact. And so how can we support them and raise awareness and provide support to their efforts? And then we also like to really provide impact to the communities where we play. And so we're always activating at our marquee NBA and WNBA events. So that includes All-Star, Finals, Drafts, the global games that both our leagues do. And so one great example of that is this past All-Star in February 24 in Indianapolis. We partnered with the Pacers and the Million Meal Movement, where we hosted a 24-hour day of service and had 6,000 volunteers pack 1 million meals in the course of the 24 hours to support the community of Indiana. And so we're really trying to identify opportunities like that where we can have strong, deep impact in a market where we're coming and playing, but then also at a national level. And we've done a handful of grocery pop-up stores with grocery pop-up events where people can come get free groceries in different WNBA markets. And again, trying to figure out how we can weave that nutrition education as well throughout everything we do from a youth and social impact standpoint.
Great way to bring together these major marquee events that you have and really meet the needs of the community that's there and that needs to be served. Jonathan, I know that NFL has also played a role in addressing food insecurity, specifically around the Super Bowl. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and some of your other efforts?
Sure. And like we were discussing, I think the beauty of sports is the convening power, right? And so we like to do the same thing. We use our marquee tentpole events to really go in and have a lasting impact in the community. And certainly at Super Bowl, I'd say even more recently than that, at the NFL draft this year in Detroit, which hosted 700,000 fans. We were able to do some really cool things there with, the second gentleman. Secretary Vilsack came and visited an urban farm with Commissioner Goodell and talked about some food insecurity issues. And then, one of our legends, Kyle Rudolph, who tremendous player and tremendous athlete, and when you see him walk in the room at 6'7", and then he wants to tell you about why nutrition was important to him being successful, you start to put it together. So he joined Senator Stabenow and Vilsack and the second gentleman at a school there where we talked about nutrition standards and his journey. So really, again, hoping to bring the positivity and the spotlight of the NFL to these issues.
Terrific. Any final messages you want to leave our audience with?
just thank you for all the work you do. Unpaid volunteer and government positions, we really respect the work that goes into it and behind the scenes. So thank you, and look forward to continuing to collaborate.
Agreed. Yeah, I think we couldn't do the work that we do at our leagues without the work that you all do in the community. So appreciate the work, the care, the passion, the effort, and look forward to doing more.
Please join me in thanking our sports leagues partners. Thank you both.
Thank you all. I think that was really great to kind of hear a little bit about what, the NBA and NFL are doing and kind of what the horizon looks like. I'd like to introduce our next sort of council member for a pretty special panel with a couple of special guests from the NHL and the NHL Players Association. But Ilana, if you want to go ahead and introduce folks.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. And although football might have just started, us winter sport people are always focused on the cold, always focused on what's next. The Paralympics end on Sunday, and the next major event for the Olympic and Paralympic movement will be the 2026 Olympic and Paralympic Games in Milan Cortina in winter. So today, we're going to bring the temperature down a little bit and focus on some ice sports. So I have two panelists with me today. Welcome Rob Woolley, the Executive Director of the NHL Foundation, and Marty Walsh, Executive Director of the NHL Players Association. So Rob Woolley oversees the NHL foundations in the U.S. and Canada, driving efforts in youth development, health and well-being, social equity, and creating pathways to hockey for underrepresented communities. As the Executive Director of the NHL Foundation and Vice President of Legislative Affairs for the NHL, Rob brings over 20 years of experience in professional sports, including with the Detroit Lions. He previously worked at the Brookings Institution in Washington, D.C., focusing on family policy and poverty reform. Marty Walsh most recently served in the Biden-Harris administration as a Secretary of Labor from 2021 to 2023, and prior to that was the mayor of Boston for 7 years. Secretary Walsh's time in the government was preceded by a long history as a union member and labor leader. In all of his roles, Secretary Walsh has been a champion of workers' rights, fair wages, and job creation. As Executive Director of the NHLPA, Secretary Walsh serves as an advocate for players, leads negotiations between NHL and players, promotes programs that expand hockey as well as focus on player wellness. Welcome.
Thank you.
So thank you so much both for joining us today, Rob and Marty. It's great to have both of you here. Both of your organizations are partners with the President's Council and have made it a priority to expand youth participation in hockey, both as individual organizations and as collective partners through initiatives like Learn to Play. Can you tell us a bit more about the things you have all worked on individually and together to help us engage more young people in the sport? I guess starting with Rob.
Sure. Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for having us here today. Rehan, thanks so much for your leadership. Appreciate the invitation. First of all, it's an honor to be sharing a stage with Marty, and it's just been such an incredible experience on the league side to be working in collaboration with the Players Association on all of these issues. The relationship between the league and the Players Association has never been stronger, and that's a testament to Marty and his leadership, and we're so grateful for everything he's been able to do to sort of bring our game forward. Almost 10 years ago, over 10 years ago, the Players Association and the NHL owners and the league itself came together, and they really began to think about what are some things we can do to work together to make investments in youth hockey, in initiatives like you mentioned, Learn to Play, getting kids on the ice for the first time, whether it's street hockey, ice hockey, and the like. And over the last 10 years, we've made close to $200 million in investments in getting more children involved in our game, both on and off the ice. And it is one of the strongest partnerships in professional sports between the league and a players' association as we collectively think of ways to get more kids active and healthy and involved in our sport. Look, our game has been played over 100 years in this country. We're not as big as basketball, baseball, football, and a lot of that is because of the barriers to entry. It's expensive sport to play, and we recognize that. It's a tough game to access, skating on ice and playing in a rink and early morning practices and all sort of the culture of hockey that has existed in this country for a long time. We realize that is a barrier to entry, and collectively we're working on solutions to improve that so we can get more kids on the ice. There's not, I would argue, and you could probably back this up given your relationship with the players, but there's probably no better sport in terms of burning calories than getting on the ice and playing hockey. It's an incredible sport, it's an incredible game, and we look forward to having more conversation about it here today.
That's great that you recognize the barriers to entry and are really making improvements and making strides to address those.
There's also, I mean, Rob has done amazing work here, and I've been in my role for about 15 months now. And the league and the PA do work very closely together. But there's also a big emphasis on women's and girls getting into hockey and kids of color. And when you look at the NHL, look at players, we have, I think there's probably a small percentage of our players are players of color. But when you go to the minor leagues and you go below that, there's more and more young people of color playing the game of hockey. It's just very expensive, and it's very hard to continue on the track to make it to the NHL. So we've made the league has made some real investments in different programs. We're working on those programs too. We have a program called Goals and Dreams that we work with the league on, and trying to give free equipment out to young people, and really focusing now inside the Players Association with the league in long term. It's not just a one-off donation to an organization. It's how do we donate to that organization and sustain that donation for a while so that we can see some growth there. So I'm excited about what's coming. I'm excited about the opportunities that we have. We have a player inclusion committee, NHL, NHLPA player inclusion committee that meet often to talk about these challenges and how do we continue to grow the game of hockey and allow opportunity young people, regardless of color of their skin, to play the game. It's important.
That's really great.
And I would just add that our Learn to Play program in partnership with the Players Association, just to sort of level set what that looks like. We provide free of cost, full head-to-toe equipment. And the intention isn't necessarily to provide children with a long-term free experience. It's sort of like a try before you buy. And what we're finding is that of the over 40,000 kids that have tried our game over the last 10 years through this program, that a lot of them are continuing to play in house leagues. But to Marty's point, we have to do a better job in being more intentional and making sure that our game is open and welcoming to everybody. Hockey culture is shifting quickly. We have no choice, and we're all sort of behind that due to the leadership of the Commissioner Gary Bettman and Marty Walsh. But to Marty's point, we have a lot of work to do to make sure our game begins to evolve and to look more like our country. And we acknowledge that there's a lot of work there to be done, but we've made a lot of progress here over the last 10 years.
And I think it's been incredible, too, to see a lot of the incorporation of U.S. women's hockey players now in management positions and coaching positions in the NHL. So it really is cool to see that you are actually implementing practices behind inclusion and in growing the game, gender and both racial diversity as well. So Secretary Walsh, the Council has seen that several of its partners, the leagues and players associations, proactively take the lead on mental health awareness. What made the NHLPA decide to prioritize mental health and lead on this? And what specific steps are you taking to destigmatize mental health care among the players? And have you noticed any measurable changes in player performance or overall culture as a result of these efforts?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I think I'll just go back to the pandemic. When you look at the numbers of people struggling with some type of mental health issue, I think it's 1 in 3 Americans. And when you think about hockey players, NHL professional players, people always don't think of professional athletes as dealing with substance use or maybe a one-off here or there, mental health issues. But the numbers are the same within the organizations, within the players. One of the steps we took last year is we created a program called First Line. First Line is a training program where we're in the locker room training players to see the signs of mental struggle, so that they can address it with their players, with their colleagues in the locker room, and begin the process of moving forward. We also have an incredible program, NHLPA program, that deals with mental health struggles and challenges. Same with substance use as well. So we have to continue end the stigma, because you think about professional athletes, they're tough, they're fast, they're the best in their business. There's a stigma in the world, never mind in a locker room. So we have to break those stigmas down, break those barriers down. We haven't seen a lot of results yet because we just started this last year. But what we have seen, I'll give you a quick example. We go around to do something called Fall Tour, where we go around. It's like a union meeting. I meet with all the teams individually. And when I was meeting with the New York Rangers, we were talking about whatever the issue was, and a couple of Rangers brought up First Line, and they had all gone through the training, and they were so into it that players on the team really watching out for each other, but also seeing those signs of struggle that somebody might be going through. They can take that training home with them and understand there might be people at home. So it's important for us to do that. And I have to give a shout out to my old workplace down the street. The Department of Labor is doing some amazing work on mental health parity that I believe, I don't want to blow any news here, but maybe something's happening soon, on the great work that EPS has done with mental health parity in making sure that insurance companies pay their fair share of services, where it's not just a one-off where they pay and don't pay again, that they really have to step up to the plate enforcing. So that's from the Biden-Harris administration and the work happening at Department of Labor.
That's amazing. Thank you. So, Rob, as a Winter Olympian, I'm really excited about Salt Lake getting the games in 2034. With those games coming up, how is the NHL preparing to leverage that down the line, and what will the NHL do to ensure that young people are excited and engaged for 2034?
That's a great question, and I'll defer to Marty to speak to the player participation in the Olympics, which is one of the greatest honors that an athlete could ever experience. But from a grassroots perspective, we have really strong relationships with USA Hockey, the national governing board of youth hockey in this country, and in Canada, Hockey Canada as well. And through our Learn to Play program, feeding into their continuation program, it's important that children see our athletes on the big stage so that they can aspire and dream big, and that may eventually lead to a gold medal. We also have a really strong relationship with the Professional Women's Hockey League. Marty mentioned our interest in expanding and growing girls hockey in this country as well. It's the fastest growing demographic, similar to what Jonathan was saying in terms of the flag football program. The girls segment within the youth hockey landscape is the fastest growing across the country. In partnership with the new Women's Hockey League, and if you haven't gone to a game or checked out a game on TV, check it out. It is the best women's sport, as far as I'm concerned, on television today. It is incredible, and there's team in New York and Boston and Minnesota in this country. But working closely with them to also make sure that girls have access and opportunity. The NHL Foundation just launched a grant program to empower girls to get more involved in our game, either on or off the ice. And all of these efforts will, the goal isn't to create future Olympians, but the goal is to continue to build excitement and momentum so that when children see their heroes on TV watching the Winter Olympics, there's something to aspire to, there's something to build upon. One last point, and this is a bit on topic, but a little off topic. There are certain experiences in pop culture and in the media that help provide a bit of a boost and some excitement around the sport. The Inside Out 2 film, if you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend you go see it. And there is a connection to the Olympics here, is that girls in America in particular who never thought that hockey was an option for them. It's a boys' sport. The boys play that. There's no girls' team in my community, so I'm going to have to play in the boys' team. Inside Out 2, and the early data coming out of that experience is that girls are signing up for hockey like never before, and we haven't seen a participation increase since the Mighty Ducks movie came out. And so it's sort of our modern Mighty Ducks moment. But there's all these sort of like movements happening in the periphery, and then more intentionally that I believe that by the time we're in Salt Lake City, notwithstanding the fact we'll have a professional team in Utah starting this year as well, we're in a really good position to make sure that we're prepared for an ice hockey experience at the Olympics here in the United States.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I mean, I think the NHL players haven't been in the Olympics since 2014. And myself and Commissioner Bettman were able to make an agreement for the 2026 Winter Games, the 2030 Winter Games. At that point, Utah officially hadn't been chosen. I'm sure we'll figure that out as well. And as Rob just said, this October, there'll be a game, National Hockey League Players game in Utah with a brand new hockey team. And I think it gives us plenty of time over the course of the next 12 years, particularly in the United States of America. There's so many young people that aren't impacted right now by hockey that aren't playing yet because of the programs we started, that some of those young people might be actually on the Olympic team. So it's exciting to see what will happen in 2034.
And one last point to that, and just testament to Marty's leadership and Commissioner Bettman, this winter we're hosting what's called a Four Nations Face-Off. Team USA, Team Canada, Team Sweden, and Team Finland are coming together here in North America, games in Montreal, games in Boston. And for the first time, we're going to have best on best on an international stage. So we're beginning to kind of dip our toe back into the international game, and hopefully we'll begin to see some more momentum as we lead into the Olympics in Salt Lake.
I'm looking at Tina. I don't know how it ended up in Boston, Tina. It just ended up there. It was just, it must be an accent thing.
Well, I think we're all excited to have NHL players back in the games. And if you have not seen a Team USA Canada hockey match, you're in for something special. So be sure to tune in this winter.
ESPN.
ESPN, there we go. Okay, so last question. The NHL and the NHLPA have a close partnership when it comes to youth and player initiatives, which is something we see with many of our leagues and player association partners. But your partnership is particularly close. What's the key to making the collaboration work so well, and how has working together amplified the impact of your efforts? Are there any specific outcomes that you've achieved together that wouldn't have been possible otherwise?
I think this council. I think that we're here together on the council. I think it's important. Historically, and this can go for any union, management, any relationship, whether it's the private sector, public sector, or sports, there's always that kind of two sides battling. And that's okay to happen around collective bargaining, around arbitrations and grievances and things like that. But at the end of the day, when you talk about growing a sport, and hockey in particular, in this case, growing the game of hockey, having a relationship, a partnership moving forward is key. Whether that is growing the sport of hockey for the current players, whether that's opening up the doors to new players, whether that's opening up the doors to new fans, creating an atmosphere that people love what's happening. The WNBA is unbelievable this year. It's been unbelievable every year, but this year is just everyone's tuning in because it's like they want to see what's happening. There's so many storylines along the way, and they've done an amazing job of telling those storylines. And I think that, they also get involved in social justice. The women get involved in social justice. The men do too, but it's really important because it's beyond a sport. So I think having an open dialogue, myself and the commissioner work well together. We like each other, and we work well together. And more importantly, our teams are all working closely together as well. And I think there's a lot of successes we can point to, but I don't think we want to point to successes because if we talk about our successes, that means the work might stop. We have to talk about what we have to do in the future and continue to work.
Yeah, I would back that up. I mean, not a week goes by where I'm not on the phone or in a meeting with someone from the Players Association talking about strategy to continue to grow this game. I mean, we are 100% in this together. And not only between the two of our entities, but also partners like USA Hockey, SFIA. Bill Sells is here from SFIA. I mean, there's a lot of stakeholders and organizations that are aiming for the same goal, which is to get more kids active in sports. And for us, yes, it's about hockey, but we understand that collectively this is an effort that involves all of us. We also have a lot of headwinds, right? So back in the day, there were a lot of outdoor rinks. They're really we're finding more and more in communities, even like in Minnesota, where the ponds and the rivers that used to freeze are no longer freezing. So we're working with the Players Association on some innovations that can sort of think of different ways of getting people on the ice outdoors. Synthetic ice is becoming something that is evolving and growing across the world. And so there are a lot of opportunities for us to be creative and innovative with the players to make sure this game survives for another 100 years. And the only way to do that is through partnership and being part of an effort like this. And the one last thing I would say, speaking of outdoor rinks, for the first time in the history of our country, the White House had an ice rink. And for the first time, well, there was an ice rink at one point under the Carter administration, but it was like for one day. This was for like an entire month, and we had over 200 kids play hockey for the first time ever on the South Lawn. And it was a partnership between the players, ourselves, the National Park Foundation, and it was a tremendous opportunity to showcase the multi-dimensions, the many dimensions of our game, from sled hockey, disabled hockey, blind hockey, deaf hockey. We had military veterans out there, double amputees. We had children out there, girls. It was a great opportunity to partner with the administration and sort of profiling our sport as something that is incredibly inclusive and a ton of fun. And thanks to Dr. Biden for that opportunity.
Last question real quick for both of you. What should we be looking forward to as winter approaches for this NHL season?
Exciting season. Number one, it's a great sport. It's a fast sport. I think just the players are excited about the initiatives that we're doing. They really are. We're getting more and more players engaged in the initiatives. And I think really letting players know it's not just about the game of hockey. It's about what they do, their actions off the ice as well, and how that impacts communities all across our country, all across North America for the most part, and in Europe in some cases. We have a very diverse league as far as Europeans and Canadians and Americans. So I think it's just being excited about that. And I think you said this, anyone in this room that hasn't watched a hockey game or hasn't been engaged in hockey, watch your local team, but really tune into the World Cup, because you're going to see best on best in the world playing each other. It's a different competition. It just feels different because you're playing for your country, and it makes such a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, listen, exciting season coming up. For those of you that are DC locals, hopefully the Caps will be able to keep the momentum going from last year. To Marty's point, we've got the Four Nations face-off, which is be a tremendous international. And this is not just an exhibition. These guys are going to go at it, and it's going to be a phenomenal experience. We've got 2 outdoor games, one at Wrigley Field on New Year's day after New Year's, and we've got an outdoor game at the Ohio State University in Ohio Stadium. Over 120,000 fans we expect to show up for that. The season sort of is starting out in a sort of a somber way. We lost a player and his brother last week to a terrible tragedy, and the Gaudreau brothers, and we're still sort of wrapping our minds around that. It was such a shock, and so I would imagine that heading into this season, there'll be a lot of opportunity for us to continue to honor their legacy. And so we're sort of launching the season on a bit of a somber note, but we also know that the hockey community, we're really tight-knit. We're a really close group, and we're all in this together, and it's sort of like a brotherhood and a sisterhood. And we're excited to see yet another exciting season. So check us out, ESPN, TNT, however you want to tune in. Yeah, it's an exciting game to watch.
Well, thank you both for your work with the council and your work for all you've done for hockey and for the growth of the sports. And we appreciate it, and we'll be sure to tune in this winter. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Walsh and Director Woolley, for coming and for sharing some of the work that the NHL and NHLPA are doing together. It was really great to hear about some of the work that's been happening. I think now it's time for one of the things I think many of you have been waiting for, which is the awards presentations. This is the first year that the President's Council has brought back awards since 2019, since the pandemic. Thanks to the efforts of the members who have put in a lot of time to kind of review applications and go through all of the nominations. To kind of talk about the awards and introduce the presentation, I'd like to invite Kahina Haynes, a council member who co-chaired the Partnerships and Awards Subcommittee that did a lot of work on bringing the awards back. So, Kahina, you.
Thanks, Rehan. Good afternoon, everyone. So, disclaimer, I'm a dancer. I'm not used to sitting this long. If we could take a quick 15 second, just move, do something, yes. Just count it down, deep breath in. I figured you all would appreciate that. And while you're doing that, no pressure, but I will continue to talk and introduce myself again. My name's Kahina Haynes, and I co-chaired along with Barbie Izquierdo, who could not be here with us, or she might be on Zoom, the subcommittee that reintroduced, along with the rest of the council members, as well as the staff, the President's Council Awards. And before I say a bit about the awards, I did want to mention it was really important to the council as we thought about how we would best acknowledge and highlight the work of the people who are really on the front lines, day in, day out. What would be a good way to do that? And I think oftentimes awards, we understand the recognition, we understand sort of the pat on the back, but I wanted to say that for the council, this was bigger than that. This was about assigning currency, value, right, to the work and really positioning it as a priority for this council. We understand that not only is it wonderful to receive an award, but that for many of you, that can be translated into visibility. It can be translated into mediums that amplify your work, that get your work better resourced, better funded, and that power shift really is what we were behind and why we were so committed to reintroducing this after the hiatus. So with that, I dropped my earring. With that, I'll kick it off by saying it is really my honor to introduce the recipients of the 2024 President's Council Awards, which really acknowledge outstanding contributions in the fields of physical activity, fitness, sports, and nutrition. So today we will be celebrating leaders in their communities, individuals and influencers that are making nationwide impact, and also individuals who have dedicated their livelihood, a lifetime, toward advancing the mission of a healthier America. These awards remind us of the power of health and fitness to transform not only lives, but communities, systems, and the world. As Rehan mentioned, this is the first year we're introducing these since 2019, and the process for that was pretty exciting. As I mentioned earlier, we were really committed to beyond just the awards, the impact that might have for the recipients. And in doing that, the process was very important. We wanted to make sure we examined any potential barriers, biases, things that historically might not have allowed certain folks to make it into consideration. So that process was examined, and we did make changes to the titles, we made changes to the scoring. So shout out to the council members who were all committed to ensuring this was a very equitable and a robust process. We received over 100 applicants, so rest assured those receiving the awards here today are truly the best of the best of the best and are contributing to the changes that we continue to hear about. So with that, I'll talk a bit about each award or each category of the award. The first is the Community Leadership Award. This award celebrates individuals who are building more vibrant and thriving communities through sports, physical activity, fitness, and nutrition-related programs. This year we'll honor 20 awardees, individuals or organizations, who are working to uplift their communities, contributing to the overall well-being, and supporting all community members' potential to thrive. And I really do underscore that all, right? It had to be demonstrated that there were completely accessible and inclusive programs and offerings. The second category, a new one, is the PCSFN Hero Award. The President's Council on Sports, Fitness, and Nutrition Hero Award celebrates high-profile individuals and influencers who are championing sports, physical activity, fitness, or nutrition, and are really working to amplify messages that support the Council's mission to broad audiences. There will be 8 individuals receiving that award today. And last but certainly not least is the Lifetime Impact Award. This award celebrates individuals whose careers have greatly demonstrated long-standing contributions to the advancement and promotion of physical activity, fitness, sports, and nutrition nationwide. This year's award will honor 5 individuals, and each of these winners have made an impact on countless lives and will continue to do so. I could not be more pleased and excited to announce these winners today. And if you'll join me, let's give another round of applause to this year's recipients. I'll invite Rayhan back up to join me to announce the winners for each category. Thank you.
Thank you, Kahina. First, we've got the Community Leadership Awards. I'd like to invite Billy Shore, Viviana Martinez-Bianchi, as well as John Feynman to the stage to present these awards to our recipients for this year. Okay, I think we will go ahead and get started. I think we have several of our awardees here in person, some that are on Zoom that I think our team will showcase as well. So I think to start off with the first Community Leadership Award, the Center for Health and Justice Through Sports. I'll start calling these as folks are going across stage. The second is Michael Cottingham for contributions. Welcome to space. Dare to Try. DC Central Kitchen and the Washington Nationals Philanthropies. Dion's Chicago Dream. Karma Edwards. Gen Youth. The Inspirational Triathlon Training International, iTry. Kaboom. Sonia Ottaway. Arden Pala. Rise Above. Amy Valasek. Volo Kids Foundation. The Youth Sports Alliance. U Power, and I think we have one person on Zoom as well. And Sarah Albus. We will now move over to the Hero Awards. So I'd like to invite on stage council members Meg Ham, Maribel Campos Rivera, and Stephanie Shaheen to present the Hero Awards. Our first recipient, Samir Besic. I hope I pronounced that right. Carrie Cotright. Brian Downauer. Renata Simro. Christopher and Dodge Suprin. Tony Reed. Tyler Schmitz. And I believe we have one final one on Zoom, George Carl. We will now move to our Lifetime Impact Award winners. So I'd like to invite the following council members on stage: Kim Ng, Kahina Haynes, Dari Mozaffarian, and Tina Flournoy. For the Lifetime Impact Award winners, we've asked that the folks who nominated them, take maybe a minute, even if it's on Zoom, to kind of introduce some of them and their work. I know for the Hero and Community Leadership Award winners, we originally thought about, providing a sentence and background as to some of their contributions, but honestly, like if you go through the award nomination files, there's no way you can summarize the work that a lot of these people have done or a lot of these organizations have done in a sentence and do it justice. We have all of their information on our website. I would encourage that you all take the time to learn about, the organizations and the individuals that we've awarded here today for both Community Leadership and the Hero Awards. There is truly some wonderful work happening at the ground level, which is eye-opening, and I wouldn't have even known about if we hadn't kind of gone through the process. But to present the Lifetime Impact Award for Clark Power, I think we have Elaine Cassidy to do an introduction, and I believe she's accepting on his behalf as well.
I am honored to introduce Dr. Clark Power for this year's Lifetime Impact Award. Nearly 20 years ago, Clark founded Play Like a Champion Today, a nonprofit he launched in response to the pay-to-play movement that made sport participation difficult, if not impossible, for far too many kids. Play Like a Champion improves youth sports culture through educational trainings and community organizing. And since it began, the program has trained more than 160,000 coaches and sport parents and given thousands of kids from under-resourced neighborhoods access to safe, supportive sport activities, often free of charge. Throughout his 42-year career as a professor at the University of Notre Dame, Clark authored numerous books and articles that examine inequality through a social justice lens, imparting wisdom about how we, as a society, need to make our communities, our schools, and our sports teams more justly supportive for all. He's taught students about how privilege impacts young lives, and he's modeled ways students can take action to address the social injustices they see. Outside of the classroom, he's known to jump in to pick up basketball games or jog across campus, chatting with students along the way. I can speak firsthand of the many gifts he shares with students because years ago, Clark was my instructor, and since then he's become a trusted mentor, a cherished colleague, and a friend. Clark works tirelessly to move youth sports culture away from the winning at all costs mentality and towards one focused on personal growth, supportive mentorship, and equitable access. He's watching us via live stream today, and I know I can speak for him in saying that his work is far from over. Congratulations, Clark, on this wonderful accomplishment.
Thank you. Thank you, Elaine. I don't know if I'm allowed to say something, but I would like to thank all of you. Thank the Play Like a Champion organization, which I'm a part of, and the people we work with all over the country. And it's really wonderful to get this award. I really thank the President's Council and the folks who are here today.
To introduce the next Lifetime Impact Award winner, I'd like to invite to stage David Conroy.
Good afternoon. It's my great pleasure to join you today for this meeting of the President's Council and to introduce my friend and colleague, Dr. Katie Schmitz, as you honor her with the Lifetime Impact Award for her work in exercise oncology. My name is David Conroy. I'm a professor at the University of Michigan, and my family is one of the millions in the United States that's been touched by cancer. Touched is a quaint word when you talk about cancer. Cancer doesn't touch anybody. Cancer sucker punches you when you're not looking and then kicks you every time you try to get up. Cancer makes no sense. It's not just, it has no rhyme, no reason, and nobody deserves it. Yet this year, over 2 million Americans will learn that they have cancer. From the moment they hear those words from their physician's mouth, their lives will change. And very shortly thereafter, their family and loved ones' lives will change inexorably as well. Now, although 600,000 people are projected to die from cancer this year in the United States, cancer does not have to be a death sentence. More than any time in human history, people are living beyond cancer, living full and joyful lives. And that's due in part to work of people like Dr. Katie Schmitz. Dr. Schmitz is a scientific powerhouse and a leader in the field of exercise oncology. Her work has demonstrated the important roles that both exercise and diet play in regulating energy balance across the cancer continuum, reducing risk and improving survivorship outcomes. We don't have time to review all of her accomplishments, but allow me to highlight two to illustrate why she is so worthy of this recognition. First, her work has helped to establish the value of progressive resistance training for breast cancer survivors who are at risk for or diagnosed with lymphedema. Based on that evidence, she developed the Strength After Breast Cancer program, which has been adopted by the largest commercial cancer rehabilitation provider in the United States and is being delivered across the country to improve cancer rehabilitation. Dr. Schmitz also leads the Moving Through Cancer initiative to raise awareness about the benefits of exercise for people living with and beyond cancer, and to provide exercise programs and resources geared to their individual capabilities. She's reached tens of thousands of survivors already and is leading the charge to make exercise part of standard care for every cancer survivor. There are over 18 million of those cancer survivors in the United States today, and that number is going to continue to grow as screenings and treatments improve. Dr. Schmidt's work on physical activity and diet has helped to change cancer from a death sentence to a call for life. And for that reason, I'm pleased to introduce Dr. Katie Schmitz from the University of Pittsburgh.
I didn't know I was going to speak. Thank you so much for nominating me, David. I accept this award on behalf of those 18 million cancer survivors. I have what I call the Uber test in the field of exercise oncology. I would like to get into an Uber, say I do work on exercise and cancer, and not have just deer in headlights looks from that Uber driver. I'd like everyone in this room to leave knowing that this is a robust field of scientific study and that we have translated this evidence base and that we should be moving after a cancer diagnosis. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe our next introduction is on Zoom by Mr. Nick Klein.
Hello, everybody. My name is Nick Klein. I am the Active Schools Director and honored to be here today. Dr. Jane Greenberg's distinguished career is a testament to her commitment to promoting healthy lifestyles for all, regardless of background or ability. She served as the program director for the groundbreaking I Can Do It program for the United States Department of Health and Human Services. Before that, she served as the district director of physical education and health literacy for Miami-Dade County Public Schools for 22 years, where she implemented comprehensive physical education and wellness programs, supported community initiatives for youth with disabilities, and secured millions in grant funding. In 2011, President Obama appointed Dr. Greenberg to the President's Council for Fitness, Sport, and Nutrition. Jane has received many honors throughout her career, and the 1 minute I have is not enough time to go through them all, so I'll pick just two. She was awarded the National Physical Education Administrator of the Year in 2005 and was inducted into the Shape America Hall of Fame in 2019. Her work is a shining example of the transformative power of physical activity, and I am honored to celebrate her legacy with all of you. Join me in congratulating Dr. Jane Greenberg on receiving the 2024 President's Council on Sports, Fitness, and Nutrition Lifetime Impact Award. Well done, Jane.
Can you hear me? Can you see me? A very heartfelt thank you for everybody, especially for the youth of America. If you can imagine that one day every single child from kindergarten to grade 12 will have daily physical education, daily recess, daily opportunities to be physically active in their classrooms. Every girl and every boy will have the opportunity to play every sport in and out of school. And there will be a time when every school will offer free breakfast and lunch to every child so they get a nutritious meal every day. No child in this country should ever go hungry. So again, to the council members, Rachel, the staff, too emotional, thank you so much. I've never worked a day in my life because I've lived my passion.
I believe our next introduction is also on Zoom by Miss Megan Lott, so turn it over to her.
Great, thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Megan Lott. I'm the Deputy Director for Healthy Eating Research based at Duke University. And I can't think of anyone more deserving of the President's Council on Sports, Fitness, and Nutrition's Lifetime Impact Award than Dr. Mary Story. For over 40 years, she has dedicated her career to advancing and promoting nutrition and healthy eating nationwide in various roles spanning from academia and research to clinical and community nutrition and education. She served as a member of the 2015 Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee, has authored 468 peer-reviewed journal articles and more than 40 book chapters on child and adolescent nutrition and obesity, and volunteered her expertise on many national advisory committees and boards, too many to name in this short time. Perhaps most important of all, Dr. Story has shaped the field of research examining nutrition policy, systems, and environmental strategies to ensure that all children and families have access to affordable, culturally relevant, healthy food options. Throughout her career, she has mentored countless individuals in the fields of nutrition and obesity research, many of whom have gone on to serve in current administrations, previous administrations, and other notable leadership positions. I have had the honor and privilege of working with her over the past 10 years at Healthy Eating Research, and I am thrilled to present her with this award today. Congratulations, Mary.
Thank you, Megan. The award means so much to me, and thank you all so very much.
I believe we have a video introduction for our next Lifetime Impact Award winner. We'll let the team play the video from Chef Jacques Pepin.
Michel Nichat is a true chef's chef. To be a chef, you have to be generous. Cooking for someone is an act of love, and you cannot cook indifferently. A 4-time James Beard Award winner, author of 3 cookbooks which emphasize local, organic, sustainable cooking, star of TV's Victory Garden, and founder of Wholesome Wave, no one deserves more to be the recipient of the 2024 President's Council on Sport, Fitness, and Nutrition Lifetime Impact Award. Raised as a farmer, Michel has a unique appreciation for sustainable agriculture and small local regional market. Wholesome Wave, with support from a government grant, supplies low-income families with coupons which double the value of $1 at farmers market to encourage the buying of healthy fruit and vegetables and support farmers. This is just one of the ways Michel is working hard for the cause he believes in. I'm proud and delighted to nominate my dear, talented friend Michel Nichat for this great honor.
We all know that we should be eating our fruits and vegetables, but what many of us don't know is close to 40 million people every year, 40 million Americans cannot afford the fruits and vegetables they need to avoid type 2 diabetes, heart disease, certain forms of cancer, and that's a real tragedy. I just want to highlight the late Gus Schumacher, who I co-founded Wholesome Wave with. Gus and I started doubling SNAP for fruits and vegetables in 2007 when it was illegal. Made it permissible during the Bush administration, got it embedded as a federally funded pilot during the Obama administration, and in 2018, the program was made a permanent part of the federal farm bill and named after Gus, the Gus Schumacher Nutrition Incentive Award. And I accept this award on behalf of the late, great Gus Schumacher, my friend and mentor.
Folks, my apologies. I did not fully click through my Excel spreadsheet. We have 2 award winners that I missed. My apologies. The first is a Community Leadership Award winner that I wanted to go ahead and call to stage David Waters, who's here with us today. The second is a Hero Award, who I also believe is here with us today, Tyler Schmitz. May have missed him. I think that's all we have. I will just reiterate once again, I know we just went through the awards, but I do encourage everyone to kind of go to the website and learn more about all of our award winners and some of the wonderful work that they're doing. I think, to close things off, I wanted to thank everyone again just for being here and for taking the time and for doing everything that all of you are doing within your communities, back at home with your organizations, to try and help us move the needle. I will say once again, I think that nutrition is an issue that deserves, I think a lot more priority from all of us collectively, to see how we can come together and do that. And I think part of what this council has been great at and what we want to continue being able to foster is a collaborative environment where we can bring together all of our partners to be able to kind of tackle that. That's all we have on our end. I think we've mentioned the One Lacrosse Gathering celebration, which is tomorrow at the National Mall at the JFK hockey fields, which are adjacent to the reflecting pool by the Lincoln Memorial. We will be there starting at 9 a.m. and going until about 4:30 p.m. So please come out, learn a little bit more about lacrosse and other stick games, and honor them as America's first sport, meet some of the other council members and kind of get to see folks in action. But yeah, thank you all again. Thank you for coming. Really appreciate everybody making the time and the effort to be here, and have a great weekend. Thank you. Rachel, do you want to?
This meeting is officially adjourned.
Produced by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.